Okay, hi everyone. Welcome again to our February webinar. Oh my goodness, where has the time gone? Before we begin, I do want to start this session by acknowledging that even though we are here virtually, we are joining in from the many ancestral lands of various Indigenous communities. I am currently joining in from Toronto, Treaty 13 territory, and the home of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Wendat peoples, the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Chippewa, and people who may still be unrecorded. I find that it is, my duty to acknowledge the effects of colonialism that we still see today, the way I may be inevitably participating in it, and the way I can actively push back against it. And this is an ongoing process for me. And as we go through this webinar, we're gonna see a lot of fantastic work that's been done. I'm especially proud of the work that Megan has been doing with CICMH, so really excited for folks to learn about that during her section. But we always invite folks to sort of think of the ways to support Indigenous students and colleagues and promote a whole campus approach to health and wellness. So I also want to, I know there's some exciting stuff ahead, but I also want to quickly go over some housekeeping. There is closed captioning for English and French at the bottom of your screen. So make sure you've set your speaking language to English. And if you would like French closed captioning, you can set your closed captioning language to French. The chat function is available if you would like to discuss thoughts and reactions. But if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section, the Q&A function, so that we know where to look for when it comes to the question period, which will occur at the end. The recording will be available on our website, usually towards the end of the day. I'm pretty prompt with it. So, but if you don't see it by end of day, it will definitely be there in the next morning. We also send out a post-webinar survey. It'll pop up when you leave this webinar. I will also put it in the chat later on. And you will also get a link for it in your email the next day, I believe. So, this is really great, important information that we'd like to gather, especially on thoughts of this webinar and future webinars going forward. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to our guests. Megan, I know you will start first. I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Taryn. Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Megan. I am Seneca Nation Turtle Clan from Six Nations of the Grand River. I am the Indigenous Research and Knowledge Lead at the Center for Innovation in Campus Mental Health, also known as CICMH. I'm also joined by Anna and Allanna, who will be speaking momentarily. So this morning, we will be going over the organizations in this presentation. So CICMH, the IIC, and Kenjgewin Teg. And then we will be going over the IIC's overview of Pathways to Wellness resource. And then Kenjgewin Teg will talk about their toolkit and framework. And then lastly, I would be discussing CICMH Indigenous Transition Toolkit at the end. Okay. So at CICMH, our mission is to engage and support Ontario post-secondary institutions in their commitment to student mental health and well-being. Within the work we do at CICMH, we integrate an equity, diversity, and inclusive lens. We build the knowledge and skills of Ontario post-secondary mental health service providers, specifically, for example, counseling, accessibility, health, and faculty admin, just to increase their capacity to address the mental health needs of students. We foster innovation and collaboration, working with subject matter experts to develop strategic partnerships to leverage external knowledge, resources, and also relationships that address the mental health needs of students and staff. And then very briefly, my role here at CICMH, I generate some info sheets. So for example, within the past year, I did one on sharing circles that provide a understanding of the purpose and how to implement them on campus. And then in upcoming months, I will be having a info sheet on grief and loss, again using a Indigenous lens. And then today, I will be highlighting the transition toolkit. So in addition to these products, I also assist my colleagues with Indigenous themed webinar topics and podcast episodes. So the most recent podcast we recorded was the importance of Indigenous students getting engaged on campus. I would be talking about this a little bit later on in my presentation. But I also wanted to highlight our most recent webinar as well. We had folks joining us from Brandon University in Manitoba. This presentation explored plant-based wellness and learning that incorporated both Western and Indigenous ways of knowing and teachings. We just want to remind everyone that this webinar recording will only be available until March 31st, 2026, and it will be removed from our website as per the request of the presenters. Next, I have had the opportunity to complete 3 Indigenous needs assessment surveys. We direct these survey questions to both Indigenous staff and students on campus who are attending post-secondary institutions in Ontario. We ask questions around the student experience, accessing mental health services on campus, any challenges and barriers, recommendations of services and improvements, and also how can CICMH support this. And then lastly, I just want to mention that we had the opportunity for this year to host 3 sharing circles, one in the north, one in the central, and our last one this week for the south. And basically, we asked Indigenous frontline staff to come together and talk about what they're seeing on campus and how can we support them in their role. And then I'll pass it over to Anna.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. So Annie, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here to present on the topic of supporting Indigenous students with their transition into post-secondary education. My name is Anna Zecharia. I reside in London, Ontario, on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Attawandaron. I'm the research analyst at the Indigenous Institutes Consortium. I've been with the IIC for about 2.5 years, supporting research initiatives that advance Indigenous post-secondary education. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the IIC, we're an incorporated nonprofit organization established over 30 years ago in 1994. We represent the collaborative and collective efforts of 7 Indigenous-owned and operated post-secondary and training institutes across Ontario. We raise awareness and increase the profile of Ontario's Indigenous institutes, learners, and communities, and support the development of member institutes. Collectively, the institutes seek to advance quality Indigenous-led post-secondary education, training, and lifelong learning. Our institutes provide education that is respectful, inclusive, and grounded in Indigenous culture, knowledge, language, and traditions, and provide opportunities for Indigenous peoples and communities. The IIC was instrumental in the establishment of Ontario's Indigenous Institutes Act 2017, which recognizes the important role Indigenous institutes play as a third pillar of post-secondary education. So the Indigenous Institutes are mandated by First Nations, so they respond to the unique needs of Indigenous communities. The IIC members are dedicated to Indigenous-controlled and governed post-secondary education and training. The graduates are highly skilled, and the programs are reflective of the needs of community. These programs include personal support worker, early childhood educator, nursing, skilled trades, and so much more. Some programs are offered jointly with mainstream colleges and universities, and they have an 82% graduation rate, and 90% of learners transition into good-paying jobs immediately after graduating. Indigenous institutes have campuses across Ontario, as you can see on the map, in urban, rural, northern, remote communities. And these 7 Indigenous institutes serve First Nations learners in 99 communities across Ontario, servicing over 500,000 people. Then I'll turn it to Allanna to talk about Kenjgewin Teg.
Minogajep Kinawea, good morning. My name is Allanna Macaluso. So I'm from Kenjgewin Teg. We are one of the Indigenous Institutes that Anna was talking about under the IIC. We're located on Manitoulin Island, specifically in Chiging First Nation. So I just wanted to introduce myself and then introduce two of my coworkers that can't be here today, but have been part of the process in developing the wellness toolkit and our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program that I'll talk about later. So myself, I'm the Director of Student Wellness and Services at Kenjgewin Teg. I've been in my role for 2 years. My background prior to that is in social work. I worked in child protection for 6 years. And then our wellness toolkit, it was designed by curriculum writer Sarah Early. So in the picture there, she's been with Kenjgewin Teg and a secondary educator for over 30 years. So she helped design that. And then we have our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin team lead, Joy Simon, who leads the work that we do with our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program at Kenjgewin Teg. And I'll talk about those a bit later. Miigwech.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about our wellness resource that we have created. But before that, I just wanted to give some background of how it came to be and why we created it. So the wellness model framework was developed in response to COVID-19, which had a major impact on the well-being of learners, staff, and community. The Indigenous Institutes noticed students were disengaging and some expressed feeling loneliness and stress, difficulty in concentrating, which led to why this project was so important. Through the IIC, Indigenous Institutes collaborated and learned from each other to address the needs of learners. While there was great work underway at Indigenous Institutes to service the wellness of learners, staff, and community, a cohesive and coordinated approach was identified as a priority. With the support of the Ministry of Colleges and Universities, Research Excellence and Security, the IIC received funding to develop a wellness model framework, which could be customized by the Indigenous Institutes. The IIC worked with a consultant in the development of the wellness model framework, and when launching the project, we identified inherent limitations of off-the-shelf products because they didn't meet the true needs of Indigenous learners, or in other words, nothing like this was already out there from our knowledge that had an Indigenous perspective on it. There was a significant lack of relevant and applicable research. There was a no one-size-fits-all approach. Our institutes have unique traditions, culture, language, ways of knowing and being that must be addressed. And we also had to ensure resources could be customizable to be used across the Indigenous institutes and available to the wider post-secondary sector. So by implementing a working wellness toolkit system, which can be tailored to one's own community traditions, cultural practices, and local community resources, the institutes were able to encourage learners to take leadership of their wellness journeys so that they can apply it in class, at home, or out in the community. So the IIC supported the Indigenous Institutes to implement the toolkit. Our first priority was to turn our internal wellness committee into an implementation committee. Student success leads at each member Indigenous Institute formed the committee and helped us to understand what was working and what were the challenges. The IIC also formed a partnership with Regional Assessment and Resource Center at Queen's University to help us with the accessibility and building out the resource on a platform called Articulate. And with finding our power together as well to indigenize the content, such as including relevant videos, wellness concepts, and resources throughout. Both organizations assisted us in co-developing an interactive wellness resource that each Indigenous institute could further customize to reflect their unique community approach. A supplementary item that was developed to go with the resource was a workbook where students can download and follow along the activities that answer questions about their wellness journey. All in all, through this project, learners at Indigenous Institutes have the tools and resources to help them navigate their educational journey with a strong sense of self and community. So now I'll kind of go over the implementation of the wellness resource. So the students were introduced to the Pathways to Wellness resource in September of 2025. Most of the Indigenous Institutes included the resource in their welcome package during orientation for incoming and returning students so that all students are aware of and have access from the start of their learning journey. They also hosted interactive workshops and lunch and learns where they explored the resource. The participation in the resource is voluntary and completed on the student's own time and pace, as Indigenous Institutes recognize students have a lot on their plate already and don't want to add added stress by making it mandatory. Indigenous Institutes also thought of creative ways to provide incentives for students. So, for example, students who complete the resource may be entered into a prize draw, such as a gift card to a wellness spa. A certificate of completion also may be offered, and during the lunch and learns and the workshops hosted, some of the IIs provided lunch and snacks to encourage participation. So at the moment, some of our Indigenous institutes are looking into turning the wellness resource into a micro-credential, so students will earn formal recognition for completing it. So now I can talk about the wellness micro-credential workshops that we partnered with eCampus Ontario. We're offering 4 virtual micro-credential workshops, and so far 3 out of the 4 have been completed. The colleagues from across IIC member institutes who participated in the co-development of the wellness resource, curriculum writers, program developers, and those interested in creating and implementing micro-credentials attended the workshop. The workshops were collaborative and hands-on, featuring interactive activities and discussions to enhance learning and the development of a wellness micro-credential resource template. Short-term courses are of growing interest, and Indigenous institutes are responding to this and developing micro-credentials, including standalone micro-credentials or ladder to create badges into a course. And attending the workshops, participants are able to gain a comprehensive understanding of micro-credentials, learn how micro-credentials specifically relate to the wellness resource, and discover key methods for designing engaging learning experiences throughout the micro-credential process. So finally, if anyone is interested in checking out our Pathways to Wellness resource, it is on the IIC website, iicontario.ca. So we invite you to explore the wellness resource and let us know if you plan to use it in your own work. Thank you. And I'll pass it to Allanna to describe her presentation.
All right, so we took the wellness toolkit and did some work on making it our own. So we gave it a name in the language, the Kenjgewin, which means the healing bundle. So I'll talk a bit about that. And then we also offer our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program for our students at Kenjgewin Teg. So although they are both very much separate programs, they both have the similar meaning or value in helping students focus on their personal wellness and their personal learning journey. We feel that that is equally, if not more important for students to ensure that there's balance and wellness in their own path. So that helps them focus and do well in the classroom. So first I'll talk about the Kenjgewin. So we are in the final stages of having it developed as a micro-credential, so we haven't rolled it out to students yet. We wanted to ensure that it was approved and good to go for the micro-credential so that all students doing the course get that certificate of completion. So it's been approved and we're just kind of wrapping up that. The toolkit itself, it's experiential learning. So students can go through the journey on their own. And there's activities built into the toolkit that they can pick and choose kind of what they do, and the more they put into it, the more they'll get out of it. And then the Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program. It's a cultural grounded programs that we offer on campus and online for our students to attend. So the Kenjgewin, we are hoping to roll it out in the spring to just a small group of students. So we're going to pick a specific cohort of students in the spring, likely one of our health and wellness programs. It's a smaller group to roll it out. And then we're also going to offer it to our partnering organizations within the community of Chageng. It can be delivered, the way it's set up, it can be delivered facilitated, led by an instructor. They can do it with one of our mental health workers on campus. It doesn't really have to be specifically like a teacher, but we do have a couple staff at Kenjgewin Teg that are really familiar with the course content and are able to deliver it. So we're hoping to roll it out for our trade students, and that will be facilitator led. So she'll go in once a week, a couple hours with them, go through the different sections and do some of the activities together. Otherwise, some of our other students that will um, have access to the toolkit. It'll be self-guided, so they can go through it on their own at their own pace. The way we want to do it is have a deadline for those that are doing it on their own so that they are encouraged to keep going and finish it. And then we'll offer some draws for some gift certificate or gift cards or some type of incentive to have students go through the whole thing and kind of get some feedback on it. So like I said, it's self-guided. There's prompts and activities throughout in each module. They can pick and choose kind of what they want to do in each section for their own learning. I'm just going to switch sides. So we have it separated into 4 directions. Each direction represents a stage in a person's own personal growth and opportunity for reflection. The course is rooted in sacred teachings of hope, belonging, meaning, and purpose. And students can create and share their own healing bundle. So the goal of going through the toolkit is at the end, they've created like a toolkit of resources so that they can carry with them as they go through their learning journey and their personal journey, and they can always refer back to these kind of resources that they carry with them. The outcomes of the course, to understand key principles of Indigenous wellness, explore personal wellness through land-based practices, recognize the importance of ceremony, story, and community, create a personal or professional wellness bundle, deepen self-awareness and emotional grounding, strengthen connection to the land and to others, and then carry forward the wellness practices into life and work. And alongside the wellness toolkit, I'll talk about next the Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program. So there are opportunities for students on campus to do some of those activities that fit into the wellness toolkit and ceremony, language learning, land-based teaching, crafting, all those activities are available for them. So each of the 4 bundles of the wellness toolkit, the first one is the northern bundle. So there's 4, and then at the end, there's like a section that they can kind of wrap it all up and do a reflection. So the first one, when they go into the module, they get into the northern bundle is the first one. This is when they start to look at the importance of reclaiming identity and wellness. So it really asks questions like, who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? Just trying to get them to start thinking about themselves and what that journey looks like, set some goals, and connecting them back to culture and language. The Eastern bundle, so this is the second module. It offers hope and guidance in a pathway to wellness. So this would include teachings like the 7 grandfather teachings. It goes into the medicine wheel, living a good life, fostering deep connections to the land. It talks about walking in 2 worlds, so that Indigenous and Western perspective, and the balance and respect in each. Then the Southern bundle is the third module that they go through. So this one emphasizes belonging and their role as a community member. It talks about reclaiming traditional foods. This is more outdoor experiences, culture, and nurturing their inner fire. And then the fourth module is the Western bundle. So the importance of meaning in our wellness journey by addressing historical trauma healing, talks about Indigenous practices like smudging. What is smudging? Why do we smudge? The importance of a sweat lodge, storytelling, art, and different roles for their overall wellness. And then the last part of the toolkit, like I said, it wraps up the bundle. Their journey comes to an end. They can reflect on their growth and really look at how they've built their resources and their bundle and how they're going to carry that through them. So once they actually get online and do the modules and the course and finish it, they'll get their certificate at the end. Like I said, we're hoping to have that deadline when all students who have completed it, they'll enter their name for a prize. And then alongside that, so separate program that we offer, but it coincides with the same values and those actual experience and hands-on learning. So we have our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction program at Kenjgewin Teg. This is, again, for learners to focus on their personal healing journey, ask students the questions of who am I, where have I been, where am I going? So they're structured events. We have our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin team. Joy is our team lead that helps coordinate these events on campus. So all Kenjgewin Teg students have access to attend these events when they're able to, depending on their schedule. We ensure to offer 1 to 2 online learning activities at least a month for our students that are fully online. So it doesn't matter how long your program is, if it's 1 year, 2 year, whatever, you have to obtain 24 hours of Aadiziwin learning within your course. So once you reach your 24 hours, when you graduate, it's like our Kenjgewin Teg honor roll. They get a separate certificate that is our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin distinction, and they're recognized at our graduation. So once they've completed any programs or activities that they attend, it could be with us on campus, or maybe they've done something in their community. We have this online passport form that they can fill out. We can help them fill it out as well, and it just tracks their hours. And once they hit 24, then our registrar recognizes, okay, they're done. They will graduate with that distinction. So we encourage students to keep going. You don't have to stop at 24 hours. And then we've created this visual that you can see on the screen. We ask that students try to get hours within different categories and not just do your 24 hours in one thing that you feel comfortable with. We ask that they try something new, but we also recognize that students might be at different spots in their learning or personal journey. And if they don't feel comfortable, for example, attending ceremony, that's okay. So it's not mandatory to do these hours like it's broken down here. It's just more of a suggestion to give them ideas on different things that they can do. And then we also cap hours for different programs that they attend. So if they went to a powwow for the weekend or they go moose hunting for a week, they can only claim 3 hours from that one specific event. Again, it's just to try to encourage them to do different things. So we have the categories of spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, language, and then we have free will hours where they could do whatever they would like. And then they submit those through the passport after attending. They go to our Anishinaabe-aadiziwin team lead who will approve the hours. And then, like I said, once they get their 24 hours, they're recognized at our graduation. So those are the 2 programs that we offer at Kenjgewin Teg for our students to work on their personal journey alongside their learning journey. Yeah, and if you have any questions later, feel free to ask away. Miigwech.
Okay. So before I begin, the contents of the transition toolkit, I just wanted to share how our toolkit came to light. So at CICMH, we established about a 2-year working relationship with IIC. Marsha, the director of IIC, and her team have been really great supporters of the work that we do at CICMH. We have IIC sitting on our Indigenous Advisory Circle, which they provide very helpful and insightful feedback in the knowledge products that I plan throughout the year. And we just want to ensure that we have voices sitting on our advisory to represent the voices of students and staff that we reach in the work that we do. So during one of our CICMH podcast recordings, we did highlight the IIC's wellness resource, where we had Marcia talk about the various concepts and tools Indigenous students that can use to support their wellness journey using traditional Indigenous knowledge perspectives. So from this discussion, it made me reflect upon a passion project that I had a few years ago about the transition to post-secondary amongst Indigenous students. So as the IIC mentioned, they only target students who attend IIs. So the resource that I intended to create would expand to college and university students. So soon after, I held a few initial meetings with Marcia and her team to discuss CICMH's partnership and building off the resource, and we came to a collaborative agreement to build off of the resource. So in moving forward, I scheduled monthly meetings to discuss content of each of the sections of the toolkit and asked for their review and approval for the final document. I just want to take this time to say Nyawa, thank you to the IIC, Marcia and Anna, for allowing us to build off this amazing resource. And also Nyawa to my Indigenous Advisory Circle for their thoughtful contributions to make this toolkit happen. So the content of this toolkit not only uses materials from the IIC's wellness resource, it also stems from our Indigenous Needs Assessment survey last year in 2024, where we asked a question specifically for Indigenous students and staff, what they think a first-year student entering post-secondary should know. So responses from that survey helped guided the themes and topics included in this toolkit. So there are 5 sections within the toolkit, which I will break down over the next few slides. The main objectives Indigenous students would take away is exploring what the Indigenous student experience may look like, identifying tips and best practices on budgeting, food, wellness, and housing as a student, recognize and understand the types of services and supports that may be available for Indigenous students on and off campus, and learning how to take care of their mental well-being using a holistic and Indigenous approach. So as students go through the toolkit, there would be reflective questions, activities, and helpful resources to guide them. We also included quotes that were pulled from our previous needs assessment survey from both students and staff that we just want to make sure that the voices were seen and resonating for students. In addition, we do have worksheets that are separate from the toolkit so that students can download and print to reflect upon the content. I will be speaking about those at the end of my presentation. So one of the sections is preparing for the journey. So this outlines some key things to keep in mind when students make their decision to pursue post-secondary. We want to acknowledge that making the decision to go to college or university will not only enhance their learning, but it is an important milestone in their life. Students should be able to help their community or benefit the lives of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Depending on their academic journey, students may need to relocate to a different city or community near their schooling. This may mean moving far away from supports, their home community, and possibly their friends and family. Now, as a student entering post-secondary, it may seem daunting and scary. We hope that the content of these sections do offer helpful resources and words of encouragement to students. In the last section, we do acknowledge students may either have a connection to their Indigenous roots or slowly reconnecting to their culture and traditions, and or disconnected from their Indigenous culture and may feel lost and do not know where to start. which is completely okay. Here we provide some helpful tips on reconnection and the importance of Indigenous stories as one example. So the next section is on maintaining wellness. We want to mention that information was pulled from the IIC's resource. So attending post-secondary, it is important to maintain a healthy lifestyle and balance the student's mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. So this section will explain what balance means in terms of Indigenous ways of knowing and how it can help students manage and find balance in their life. We do break down each of the four quadrants a bit further and explain the importance of food, sleep, movement, sacred spaces, ceremony, and community, which are our sources of wellness and maintaining wellness. At the end of this section, we have a reflection activity for students to participate in, where we ask students to create their own wellness wheel based on the information mentioned previously. The next section on student life. This section will outline various experiences a student may go through. So one would be, we just want to acknowledge that there may be students transitioning to post-secondary from a different pathway, for example, maybe coming from high school, maybe coming from college or from the workplace. We just want to acknowledge that they bring their own unique experiences, background, and skill set to the campus setting. Next, we have time management. As students enter post-secondary, they will have to find balance between attending courses, completing assignments, exams, and try and balance that life outside of campus. So students will find helpful tips and strategies to keep on track. For example, explaining the importance of utilizing a calendar or agenda, establishing boundaries in their routine, so allowing time to relax and take time for themselves. We pull from the IIC's resource here to describe living in balance, which helps manage stress and creating a wellness routine that will support their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Students will have the opportunity to create their own wellness routine using the tips and suggestions we mentioned in this section. Next, we have assignments and exams. So students will be asked to complete written assignments, group projects, presentations, or exams during their time in post-secondary. We acknowledge that most campuses have centers or services that do provide support in writing, studying, and tutoring depending on the subject matter. We want to remind students that these services are available to support them to be successful and to not feel ashamed or embarrassed when seeking these services. We just want to mention that throughout our past 2 and 3 needs assessment surveys, we did find Indigenous students did not know what type of services were offered. And also, they did not know where these services were located on campus. So through a reflective activity, we do ask students to review their campus website and actively search and engage with their Learning Center services. Next, we have the post-secondary culture. The post-secondary experience may look a little bit different for students, specifically Indigenous. For example, it might be feeling like a slight culture shock for some, for example, the university setting is very competitive, individualistic, focuses on academic achievement, things like that, which may goes against many Indigenous beliefs, values, and customs. So depending on the size and location of a campus, they have a very complex system to access and navigate, which may create some certain barriers and challenges for students. We do highlight some of the hard truths that many Indigenous students may face during their post-secondary time. We do provide students with tips and suggestions to try and overcome these obstacles. For example, adding a Indigenous lens to some of the content in their assignments, reaching out to Indigenous staff member or elder. There is a reflective activity that encourages students to create a circle of safety. I will mention this worksheet at the end of my presentation. Next, we have homesickness. Some students, as mentioned before, would have to move away from their home community to attend post-secondary. There may be times throughout the semester where they feel homesick and lonely. Specifically as a Indigenous student entering a colonial school, the campus environment may feel isolating. The culture may not be adequately reflected or visible. We suggest helpful ways to manage homesickness and connect students to our CICMH info sheets on homesickness and loneliness and connection for further reading. Next, we have budgeting and financial literacy. So during this time in post-secondary, students may have to find financial support, learn to budget, and find ways to manage their money. So this section will provide helpful resources and tips on money management in post-secondary. Students will learn how to budget, understand best practices on spending, encourage students to apply for scholarships, bursaries, and other funding options. In this section, we also address food insecurities and provide helpful information and suggestions to access free and low-cost meals. In the last section, we do highlight student housing on and off campus, community resources, and important tips to keep in mind when searching for rentals. And the next section, where to get support. So there may be a time during a student semester where it feels difficult to get through the day or feeling they're falling behind in their courses. This section will highlight some of the programs and services that may be available to those both on and off campus. We do remind students that they are the best advocate for getting help, and it is okay to ask for help, which demonstrates their will and a personal strength for self-improvement. Again, we want to acknowledge that some of the material is pulled from the IIC's wellness resource. So seeking support is an important step in maintaining students' mental well-being and achieving success in their educational journey. So knowing how to effectively access and utilize available resources can make a significant difference in managing stress, overcoming challenges, and staying healthy. Next, we also wanted to mention what mental distress looks like. So we wanted to recognize some of the common signs and symptoms of decreased mental wellness. We want to mention that this is for educational purposes only, and we do want to highlight the importance to seek out professional advice and treatment. And then we also encourage students to take our free courses, More Feet on the Ground, which provides students tips on how to recognize, respond, and refer someone experiencing mental health concerns. Next, we want students to be aware of their rights and what they're entitled to. So reiterate, don't be afraid to ask for what you need to succeed and stay healthy. Take the necessary steps to follow through with the support plans and advice given to them. Here we include our podcast episode where a student shares their experience accessing the Indigenous Student Center on their campus, and they share the importance of getting involved on campus as the center provided support, belonging, and resilience. Next, we do mention services available on campus. So this section will encourage students to become familiar with the common types of services and programs available on campus and within the community as well. We include community supports and resources around mental health that may be available to students on and off campus as well. And then lastly, we just want to acknowledge, again, the content was pulled from the IIC's resource. We just want to remind students that to assess their situation, recognize their symptoms, reach out and make contact to a staff member or community resource. And then the next section, taking care of your mental health. This is kind of the final section of the toolkit and just is a reminder for students to take care and time for themselves. It is about knowing and utilizing the tools and resources around them, which are essential in helping them find healthy and holistic approaches to cope and adapt to stressors in post-secondary. So how to build emotional resilience. So basically, explaining what emotional resilience is and why it's important to well-being, which means basically the ability to bounce back from setbacks and the ability to handle stress in a more healthy way. We outline the importance of being emotionally resilient and building what that looks like. We reflect upon how it would benefit them as students, what tips can be added to the routine, and what supports have they used in the past that help them. Next, we mention medicines. So during moments of stress, anxiety, and feelings of uneasiness, we want to encourage students to consider using traditional medicines to help reduce these feelings. So medicines are gifts of healing, and in all forms, they contribute to mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health. We do provide a brief description of 4 of the sacred medicines and how they can be used in the routine. We encourage students to connect with their Indigenous Student Center for more information or accessing to medicines on campus. Next, we have ceremonies. So in addition to traditional medicines, we also included ceremony as an example to de-stress, reconnect with culture and community. We encourage students to participate in ceremony as it is a great opportunity to build their social circle and through a holistic approach to find that balance and improve their wellness. We do provide a few examples of ceremonies students can either access on campus or within community, hosted by local Indigenous communities or organizations off campus. Next, we have maintaining wellness. So again, we refer back and bring back from section 3 on the medicine wheel teachings. We do have a diagram for students to see examples of suggestive approaches of taking care of their well-being. And then we also encourage students to use a worksheet to help guide their wellness plan. And then lastly, bringing it all together. So we just hope students have gained valuable resources and knowledge to assist with their transition. So by the end, students hopefully will have a better understanding of the types and services and resources that are available to them on and off campus, and knowing who they can reach out to for support. We do conclude this section by some reflective questions that were pulled from the IIC's wellness resource. Basically, questions reflecting upon their why of pursuing higher education and journey. What are their wellness goals and how they will connect with community, culture, and inner self. And then again, as I mentioned, throughout each of the sections mentioned, we do highlight external resources for students to expand their learning. These resources are mentioned throughout, but then also at the very end of the toolkit, there are links that are able to connect them with resources and for further learning. And then we do have 2 handouts that are separate from the toolkit. So the one is on Circle of Safety sheet. So students can either print this off or download it and they can fill it in when necessary. So basically it's where they can place names, phone numbers, emails of family, or friends or support contacts or community resources just to have on hand when they feel they need to reach out to someone to talk to. And then next we have a wellness wheel sheet. Again, this can be either printed off or downloaded. This is a reflective activity where students can do on their own that they can think about their feeling. Again, it connects with the four quadrants: emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical. And a goal. And so our goal is to have this toolkit on our website very, very soon. Once it is on our website, I will be sending out a mass email to folks. It also will be mentioned in our newsletter. And if you have any questions about the webinar today, I'm happy to chat. My email is on the screen. And now I will pass it over to Taryn to facilitate our Q&A.
Amazing. Thank you, Megan and Anna and Allanna. This is fantastic. Folks, if you have any questions, now is the time to send those questions in. I will stop sharing slide. Oh, actually, I'll keep it up for a moment and then I'll stop sharing uh, eventually. I do see one question here in the chat. Somebody said, thank you for this presentation. Are there activities that help students build skills to self-advocacy? And maybe this might be for Megan, because I know Megan mentioned self-advocacy.
In all honesty, I pulled that from the IIC's wellness resource. So Anna, do you have anything to mention?
I can't think of a specific activity in self-advocacy, but if you go through the wellness resource on our website and click through the modules, you can look through all the activities and see what pertains specifically to self-advocacy. But yeah, it's on our website, iicontario.ca.
Alana, do you have anything else to add on this topic?
Not specifically. We use our like our student services team and our mental health worker if students need support with advocating. We kind of just judge based on where the student's at, like if they need help making a phone call or writing a letter or whatever that looks like. We encourage, of course, getting them set up or felt comfortable to do these things, but we would just help in any way that we can if they need a ride or if they want to like practice for an interview or anything like that, they can always just come to us and we will just kind of figure it out and judge based on what kind of support they need.
Thank you for that. I will also mention that CICMH do have a couple of resources that speak of self-advocating. So I can put a link to the chat. We have a transition out of post-secondary resource, and that one kind of goes over the steps of self-advocating. And then recently we put out a chronic health conditions toolkit that goes over how to advocate for yourself with the doctor or with a professor if you want accommodation. So I will link both of those things in the chat. We will go forward with another question. So I know we got a question during registration from someone asking, what methods do you utilize to reach out to new Indigenous students? Can you share any new trends in student engagement? And maybe this might be for Lana.
Yeah, I can share. I wouldn't say anything new or new trends, but when it comes to engaging with students, we we utilize so we have our students on like our Orbun platform with all their information. So we try to just reach out and offer support any way that they feel comfortable with. So for us, we'll offer like even for the services that we provide, like do you want um it over the phone? Do you prefer to type or text, like on your computer via email or texting? We'll offer to go and meet the individual in the community or at their home, whatever that looks like. And same with like for counseling services and whatnot. We've I guess just come to the conclusion that we need to be adaptable, especially with the younger students that we service. They want to do things via text or email or on the phone, maybe, probably not in person. So just trying to find services that will meet those needs for sure. And then we just engage by being persistent or try to provide like an incentive or bring something that can help meet their needs or their barriers when we meet with them.
Thank you, Alana. I see there's a question here in the Q&A section, and folks, please put it in the Q&A just in case I don't miss it in the chat. So somebody's asking, do you have any colleges outside of the IIC that have begun to work with you on implementing the toolkit or similar projects? And maybe this might be a question for Anna.
So at the moment, we don't have any partnerships with colleges or universities on the toolkit itself, but the individual Indigenous Institute might be considering that. I don't know, Kenjgewin Teg, like Allanna, are you planning on partnering with a college on the wellness toolkit at all?
Not specifically for the wellness toolkit. We're going to definitely send it out to students like in different cohorts and some of our different programs are partnered with different like colleges or universities. We do want to roll it out for partnering organizations within our community that we work really closely with, like the healthcare, like Kenjgewin Teg, Aadiziwin, like these are agencies that we work really closely, more specifically to provide supports and programming to students. So we want to ensure that we collaborate with them, but not specifically to other like colleges or universities.
I would also add that like colleges and universities are welcome to take our resource on the IIC website. Like it's kind of a template one where whereas the Indigenous Institutes have their own customized individual one for their own communities, but we have one that's pretty general that you can look through and see if it relates to your students at your university or college. So you're welcome to take it. It's a free resource on our website. But yeah, just let us know if you do plan on using it. We're always like curious to see if it was a good resource for mainstream as well, but it is specifically made for the Indigenous Institutes specifically.
Thank you, Anna. We have a question. We have actually a couple of questions for Megan. Megan, if you can remind folks when potentially the toolkit might be on the website and if it will be translated to French.
Yes, I'm very hopeful. It would be, I don't want to like, I'm hoping very soon. I would say definitely by next week. I'm crossing fingers. Like I said, we've approved the final edit of our toolkit. So again, very, very soon. And yes, it will be translated to French and that will be available on our website as well once we do get the final approval on the toolkit.
Thank you. I think this might be a question for Alana. So somebody is asking, could you please share what percentage of Kenjgewin Teg's graduates earn the Aadiziwin distinction alongside their diploma/degree? Do you see any trends?
Good question. So our goal is to have 50% of graduates with distinction. I've only been in my role for two graduations. So last year, so we've been kind of playing around with the distinction program a little bit. So last year, that one slide that I showed with the hours and the different categories, it was mandatory for students to do it that way. And we've seen quite a big decline in our graduation rate. I think it was only like 30%, which isn't terrible, but not where we wanted it to be. So we really needed to shift that and recognize that students aren't in a place to do hours in all those categories. So we're hoping to see a big shift this year. Same with the online passport. A lot of our students don't feel comfortable, like they're coming to programs and not filling out the passport. So we're really trying to fine tune the program. This year we're offering more like paper copies that they can utilize, or just working with the Oddswin team and they're putting their hours in on the computer for them. So we're hoping to see a big shift in our graduation rate this year. Again, our goal is that 50%.
Thank
Did
you.
I answer the full question? I think I might have missed something, but
I think you did.
okay.
Yeah.
Much.
Folks, I do want to be mindful about the time. We have hit 12 p.m. So I just want to extend thank yous to our panelists here. Thank you so much for a really great, insightful webinar. I learned so much myself. And thank you to the audience for coming in, being, very interested in all of this and sending in really great questions. I do want to note that our next webinar is a special event on AI and privacy considerations in the context of campus mental health. It is a webinar that we are not going to be recording, but if anybody you know or you are interested, please register, and we would love to see you there. I'll put the link in the chat. And you will see this recording up in a few hours, I believe, and feel free to share it among your colleagues when you can. Thank you, folks, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.